Welcome back to the COS Business Podcast. My name is Andrew Hasty. I'm the host of the show. Today, I'm sitting here with Emmy Archuleta with Archuleta Pain Solutions. Can you tell us a little bit about what your business is?
Absolutely. So me and my mother started Archuleta Pain Solutions about 6 years ago. And what we really do is we help you and your animals heal faster. We use several different types of modalities to do so. We specialize mostly in acute injuries, so like sports injuries. That's mostly my background.
And then cute injuries when it comes to animals.
Yes, especially all the cute puppies. We love fixing cute puppies. And then we also do pre and post surgery, wound care, and some neurotherapy, biomechanics, biohacking, oh goodness, herbalism, you name it, a little bit of everything. So pretty much my other tagline is if I can't find the way to, or if I don't have a solution for you, I probably know someone who does.
Nice. Sweet.
Yeah.
Just want to double check, make sure everything sounded good. Is everything sounding good over there, Marcus?
You're a little bit low.
A little bit low. All right. Yeah, it's looking a little good. Oh, I actually turned it down, I think. All right. So, yeah, I just wanted to double check all that. What was I just thinking? Yeah, so what made you get started in that? Yeah, there's about like 5 different things we're going to like dive into on that. And yeah, so let's start where you got started.
Sounds good. Always at the beginning.
Yeah.
My mom had actually needing a hip replacement. And when they originally, so she shows super competitively. So she needed a hip replacement, and they originally quoted her about 3 months recovery, which is pretty typical, especially if you go through the anterior. And so she went in for surgery, and she had planned it right before show season. And so she had the 3 months because she thought that was going to be good and blah, 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 blah. Well, she goes in, and they fracture her femur. Yeah, so she had been seeing a lady for laser therapy beforehand, trying to fix it. But once it's bone on bone, there's only so much we can do. So then she started getting lasered. And within 2.5 months, almost 3 months, she was riding. Even though with a fractured femur, they quoted her 6 to 9 months recovery. And then the lady that was lasering her ended up having to leave to go take care of her parents in another state. And I was transitioning out of a really bad abusive relationship, looking for a way out, my own job, something that I could work around my injuries and stuff. So since she was leaving, I took over her business. Me and my mom started it together and started lasering since. So yeah, fixing a fractured femur is really how we got into this, and my mom's hip replacement. So
Okay, and so when you say lasering, what does that mean?
Yeah, so our main modality and where we really started, and the only thing we really did the first year, was a class 4 medical laser. It's FDA approved. And what it does is it accelerates the body's natural healing process. And so what it does is it goes into the mitochondria, powerhouse of the cell, helps it produce more ATP, the power source. So it's kind of like jump-starting the engines of the cell. And since it's at that cellular level, whether it's fixing bone or soft tissue or nerves or wounds or anything in between, it's going to help accelerate that natural process. And then because it's such a class 4, it can actually penetrate into the bones. Anything lower than a class 4 will not be able to penetrate that far and works at different frequencies and for different things. I mean, there's a million different types of lasers out there, right? And
Yeah, lightsabers.
yeah, right? Or even like the 3D printing
Just
and everything
amputate
too.
it off, you know.
Yeah, they do that in surgery now too. You'll see a lot of lasers used in surgery to
Nice.
cutting tissues because it's much more accurate. So, yeah, so kind of the general. So, I mean,
And to clarify, you're not the kind of lasers that cut things off.
no, we're the opposite. We're the ones that fix the things after they get cut off.
Nice.
We worked with several amputees actually, so that was pretty cool.
So what does that do? It like heats up the mitochondria, and or what's going on inside there?
Yeah, so yeah, it goes into the mitochondria, accelerates that process to produce more ATP.
You say myco?
Mitochondria.
Okay, sorry.
However you say it.
I didn't know if there was 2 different ones. I wasn't trying to correct you.
No,
Okay.
I know. I like remembering all the fancy names is not my specialty, especially after 2 TBIs I have. So like I can draw everything on the body, but naming all of them or using the fancy words is not my thing.
Yeah, and like the specific like actual name of it is less important than the actual function and understanding the function of it. So I'm a big believer in that as well. Like names are important for identifying and communicating, yes, but understanding it, knowing a name doesn't mean you understand what's going on. So
Right.
So it's like it's what is it doing to the mitochondria?
Yeah, so it's just accelerating that healing process, so helping it produce more ATP.
Which is funny because I know all this stuff, which is adenosine triphosphate.
Yeah.
And-
Okay, well, you know more than I do. I don't remember those words anymore.
Yeah.
When I was going through the classes, I did, but now, no.
Yeah. I went through learning like cellular and micro stuff, like a phase in my early 20s, just kind of online studying it. I don't know. I just got like obsessed with it. And just learning that stuff, like I even made like a beat and I called it like ATP3 or something like that. Because I was making music back then too.
Yeah.
And it just sounded very microby. I don't know. But yeah, so I don't mean to get off topic, but yeah, I was just kind of curious, like, so it helps you produce more ATP, and that helps accelerate the healing process.
Yes. And then because it's a class, and since it's a class 4, again, the penetration's deeper, but it's also warm. So you'll see a lot of the lower classes they're like cold laser therapy. Ours is actually warm. It feels like a hot stone massage. And from that, with the accelerated heat, it's going to help bring in more blood flow, which is going to help push out more of the swelling and the scar tissue, as well as helping with the white blood cells. So then it's going to help prevent a lot of infection, which is why when we have an acute injury, like if you already know it's not necessarily bad for surgery, whether you go to PT or not, this is something you want to start right away, because then we can help prevent any type of scar tissue from forming. So as you're healing through the injury and even doing your PT or not, then it's going to be able to decrease all of that and just increase that healing process.
So are these like open wounds or internal open wounds, or
yeah.
So I think that contradicts itself, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. So like sprains, tears, especially shoulders, dislocations, things like that. If it's under a grade 3, like, so once it's completely torn, you're gonna have to go to surgery. But this, like, depending how bad it is or even how old it is, we're able to pretty much get rid of surgery, as well as most of my healing times, especially if I can catch it right away, are 5 to 10 treatments, and that's it. So it's like 1 to 2 weeks and your sprained ankle is gone if I can catch it right away. Now, if you wait 3 months and it's still bothering you and then you come to me, now it's going to be 10, 20, maybe even 30 treatments, because now we're fighting the scar tissue. We're having to do way more tissue manipulation to force that scar tissue out and then kind of start that healing process to produce the right tissues versus scar tissue.
That is awesome. Yeah, I love that stuff. So you saw that it worked for your mom, and
for a fractured femur, I was like, if this is working, and then just seeing all the other stories that we've been able to do. Probably some of my favorite, if I can go into that.
Please.
Yeah, my favorite is we partner with the National Mill Dog Rescue, and we help a lot of those puppies. And one of the first ways we got involved was a dog called Michael. She had actually been ran over. They had to completely rebuild her front arm. Her back legs had healed because she was like flat like a pancake, so she was swimming. They had healed backwards and her hips were displayed out. So with a lot of physical therapy and the laser to help break up some of that scar tissue from that, now she walks completely fine. We've healed, I think, 6 dogs that have been paralyzed. Everything from trauma to one of the harder ones that I wasn't sure how it was going to work out was a heartworm medication reaction, because with the heartworming, they actually inject into the spine. And so whether it was trauma from a bad injection or a reaction from the chemicals, we were able to get her up and running in about 2 months.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So they use this a lot for some of the extreme cases that they don't necessarily want to give up on the dog, but there's only so much a rescue can do too. So.
Yeah. What made you want to go into the animal? Was that like something that you seen like no one was doing?
So most laser techs either do animals or do humans.
Okay.
We're one of the few that do both, just because of my background, and then just exploring like the holistic health freedom act and everything like that too. So most people, we started with animals. Like the lady that was lasering my mom, she didn't do humans, but my mom was like, if it's working on these giant horses, I'm sure it's going to work on my hip. So they mostly do animals, and then we just do both. So we've done animals and humans, and it kind of balances out. Some, especially over summer, like I'm doing a lot more animals because now they're, most of us don't necessarily, we're warm weather riders. Some of us anyways out here. So most of the riding then happens during the summer. So as that starts to kick off, you see a lot of injuries because people haven't been riding or whatever might be the case.
And you got like you said, because of your background, what is that?
Yeah. So I went to school for sports medicine, and then business as well. And then I have also went to school for massage and trigger point releases and some of those other things, including like meridian systems. And I'm certified in I don't even know how many different things when it comes to like energy work, to kinesiology. Taping is one of my favorite things too, and cupping and biomechanics and movement specialists. So all sorts of different things, but yeah.
Nice, yeah. And do you have like, and then your history with animals? What is that?
Yep, born and raised. I was definitely lucky in my childhood because we always had horses. We competed at a world championship level with horses, and then we also competed at a professional level with even dogs. So expanding that way, and then being part of 4-H. 4-H is so close to my heart. It's such a great foundation for your kids, and it forces you to experience all of it, but also take a lot of responsibility, helps with speaking, you name it. 4-H was my main foundation when it comes to that. So also doing like the livestock judging and everything. So I was exposed to the cows and whatnot. I think I've done, almost most animals I think I've done. I've done everything from fish to ferrets to snake to chickens to ducks to cows to horses to birds, and then humans, of course, and dogs. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So like, how do people know that this is what you do?
My mom was huge in the community, and we were just born and raised. Well, I was born and raised here, so we were just mostly word of mouth. As soon as people knew what we were doing, and because it was my background, it was really easy for us to kind of just put the word out naturally. I've been lucky. I haven't really had to spend much time in marketing. My only marketing I really do is networking, but I think that's so important for this town and just close to my heart to genuinely connect with people over ads and things like that.
Especially with what you do, it's really personal. So it's like having that personal connection first is important, probably.
Yeah. And I think just having that connection, but then I also very much take it to heart and keep integrity. Like, I know I'm not going to be the person that can fix everything for everyone. So when I'm talking to people, I tell them straight up, like, hey, this is what I can do. This is where I think I can get you to go. These are some of the other things you're going to have to partner with to help with it, especially with like joint injuries. You're always going to pretty much need a chiropractor. And I've finally found a really good one that I'm partnering with. So I'm excited.
Can you announce anything?
No, it's still in the works. It's still in the works, but it's a mobile chiropractor, so it makes it even easier.
That's funny because that narrows it down for me a lot.
Right.
Actually.
Yeah, still working out the nitty gritty, but yes, I'm excited.
I have two people that I think that it might be.
Yeah. So it's there's several other chiropractors that I recommend, but there's a lot of really bad ones here in town too. So
okay, yeah.
I've tried my fair share, even with my own injuries.
Yeah,
too.
there's a lot of chiropractors in Colorado Springs. Actually, I'm not exactly sure why that is. I mean, this podcast has had like 5 chiropractors on it already.
Yeah. And they're all each little different and have their little niches. So it's I love also nerding out with them too, because especially if they're like a sports medicine background too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So they are familiar with what you do, probably.
Not so much with the laser. I think that's one of the hardest things about finding partnerships for my business is.
And that's your main focus, right? Like that's how you brand yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, mostly laser. We've expanded more into other directions too, but I really I don't know, I guess I'm that person. My niche now is things that I know I can fix in less than a month.
Nice. Okay. Yeah.
So that's why I like the acute injuries, the post-surgery and things like that, because I know we can get in, we can get out, it's going to be done.
Yeah, and allowing people to see results quicker gives them less opportunities to start doubting things. Because people can easily, after a few months, if they're not seeing the results, give up. Yeah. That happens a lot with exercise, so.
Yep. Yeah, so that's why it's a little more difficult. Most people don't know about laser, or they don't know about necessarily the class 4 laser and the different classes, or they just haven't seen the results. There's several different businesses here that have lasers, but none quite the way that we do, and I don't think none as big as we do. So we'll see some of them in some chiropractors' offices, but typically they don't have a class 4, so they only have a class 3, so to put it in perspective, like my machine is 15 watts. Anything lower than a class 4 only goes up to 1.5 watts. So what they're doing in
it's a big jump.
10 treatments, I'm doing in 1. Yes. Yeah, so, and it's so much more powerful and everything like that, so.
Yeah, because it can go deeper. You said it can go to the bone. The other ones can't. I assume, is it similar to like a laser for laser removal or tattoo removal?
No.
Not at all.
Different
Okay.
frequencies and different how the laser comes out. So depending how you point the laser is how it's going to actually affect the tissue. This is in like a handheld contraption, and it's through a ball. So it's a roller ball that comes through. So
Okay.
it feels like that hot stone massage.
Oh,
And it's
okay.
rolling with like a
Interesting.
stone. So, yeah.
And it's breaking all that up.
Yeah, so you
it's
can
breaking down
use-
scar tissue, breaking down. Is there any more things that it's doing, or is that the main focus?
The main focus is just accelerating the body's natural healing process.
Okay, got you.
Whether it's because of the scar tissue or just because of the initial injury, it's going to hit all of it, which is nice because, like, obviously I'm not a doctor. I'm not trying to diagnose anything. I've just, had 6 years and, God knows how many other years experience in other industries in the medical field. But it's nice because literally you point to where it hurts and I laser there. And then because my background, I can also find where the source of that injury might be too. So like if it's your shoulder, then I'm also going to look at your neck and then also your ribs and scapula and things like that and see where that is.
So when it comes to that side of it, what separates you from a chiropractor?
I just can't manipulate the bones.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay.
Yes. Chiropractors are I should have just became a dang chiropractor, let's be honest.
You may have to add that on your belt.
I know. One day, I really do want to because I do love it and appreciate it. So everything I do, I pretty much recommend everyone to a chiropractor because having the bones in the right place are absolutely essential, especially for healing. So even when I have someone who twists an ankle or dislocates this or pops a, whatever it is, most likely those bones. So like an ankle is a great example. There's a bunch of tiny little bones in there. So if you don't put it back in place and it's healing and those bones are out of place, it's forming scar tissue in the wrong place. So now you're having to literally change your biomechanics because your bones are out of place and it's trying to heal. So when we have that and people don't necessarily listen to me and they don't go to the chiropractor and get the bones back where they need to go, the injury is going to take longer because now your body is having to learn to literally function a completely different way in dysfunction because your bones are out of place. So chiropractors are essential to manipulate those bones.
Yeah.
I just work with soft tissue.
So that partnership's going to be awesome.
Yes, especially mobile. Right now, I mostly just take people out of my office and my house just because I'm that busy. I'm looking for a full, eventually I'll get busy enough for a full time, like we were talking, mobile unit. I love mobile units.
You want the mobile unit? Okay.
Yes.
Kind of like, would that be like a conversion van, a tiny, like, what would that look like?
That's actually how we started. It was completely mobile. I just set up an office within this last 6 months. So we literally go into your house. My laser machine is, the laser is maybe 20 pounds. It's super light and mobile. So we go into people's homes, treat them where they are, especially for animals and horses. We just go right into the barn where they're comfortable. They don't have to travel, especially with leg injuries, trying to be in the trailer. It's so dangerous. So we're able to just go right to them. So that's where I'm expanding is I need to get somebody for a mobile unit. And then we're expanding into a couple different gyms and spas as well.
And when you say expanding, like, that's where people can book you at?
Yes. So eventually, I know, I'm forecasting my future. I'm so excited to see as it grows. All still in the works right now, but I want to see gyms, especially like CrossFit gyms and stuff where people get, really acute injuries, have some of those mobilities or modalities right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And but would you be in that facility or like you have someone in that facility?
Yeah, so I'll train somebody to be in there and
you're just hiring them full time, like 5 days a week, 8 hours.
It's nice with a laser. Like you need some type of medical background and obviously the training through it, but it's simple enough that like it'll be easy to expand into that.
Nice.
Because you literally just point where the pain is, and obviously I'd still be involved trying to figure out what the best course of action is. So if we only need 5 treatments or we need 10 treatments, if this treatment isn't working, do we need to increase the wattage, lower the wattage? Do we need to add in taping or massage, chiropractic, and all those other things?
For sure. Yeah, that'll be that's excited. I'm excited to see that, and we'll have to have you back on the show to check up on that progress for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So what are some of the biggest like pushback you get when it comes to this stuff?
Just not knowing about it. That's really it, especially with like the partnerships too. Like if they don't know enough, either they're willing to be open-minded to learn about it or they already made up their mind about it. So it's since we've been doing this for 6 years, we have so many success stories. I don't really get too much pushback. Mostly my pushback, I guess, is once I get into someone's home and I can explain the technology and explain how it's working, then we're good. And then as we're going, we're always checking in, seeing if it's working, not working, and things like that.
Like, what's like their biggest concern?
Whether it's going to work or not, because it just feels like a hot stone massage. Like, it's not like I'm sitting there manipulating your bone, and you can see results after 1, or you can see results not until, 8, 9, 10. But that whole entire time, we're just increasing that natural healing process. Nice.
Yeah. And then you also, on top, you provide the other services, because Pain Solutions, it's all encompassing with that, right?
Yes. Okay. So we started with laser. Then we added in kinesio taping. So especially with the athletic training background, I love taping. So when you do like regular like Mueller's taping, it's like the braces that you saw, especially back in high school, because that's where I started athletic training. I did all 4 years. Nice. And actually won nationals doing that.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's hard tape. But kinesio tape is like this stretchy tape that helps us. It does a couple different things. So you have 2 layers of fascia. It's this white netting that's going to kind of be the pulley system of the entire body. So whether it's trauma or whatever, it gets stuck and doesn't want to move. This tape with nothing on it, it's literally just kind of this stretchy, super sticky tape. Lifts up on that second layer, so it allows the increase in blood flow. It's going to take take pressure off of those pain receptors, and it's just like this nice little neurological hug. So it was perfect to keep what we did with a laser, that healing process, and increase it even more, because the tape will stick on 3 to 5 days, sometimes longer, and so we use it a couple different ways. So it's really good for bruising and swelling. It's super cool because we do like this whole fancy basket weave with it, and you see where it lifts the bruise off where the tape was, and then the bruise where it isn't. Yeah, wow, so you have these super cool patterns, and so we're able to kind of move it around and pull that bruise completely out. Yeah, wow, okay. Within a couple of days. And then...
and a bruise is just like dead blood cells, right?
Yep. So it's pulling that out, but with the laser too, then because it's pushing the white blood cells and increasing the blood flow, it's also going to help pull out some of that scar tissue that can be forming and the inflammation and stuff like that. Nice. We also use it for biomechanics. So instead of really harsh posture braces, especially for the shoulders where it rubs in your armpits, the tape will literally hold you back, and it's nice. Again, it's that 24/7 reminder to your brain that, hey, we need to sit back. Hey, we need to sit back. Or for injuries, it's like, hey, pay attention to me, send some focus here. Yeah. So it's working with those nerves and that brain input too to increase that.
So what is it? It's a brace that goes around your shoulders?
Yeah, so you can just literally do an X across your back, and it's going to help with posture.
Okay.
A lot of injuries are... I would say 90% of injuries are just because of posture.
I bet.
Chronic pain, especially, which I dabble in, but most people, if they don't already exercise, they're not going to necessarily exercise with me just because I'm not a personal trainer. And I don't ever claim to be. So when I'm working with those chronic pain and I know it's from the posture issues, we can at least do some of the things to help start training that body, where your body's going to naturally do it with or without exercises.
For sure, yeah, because when I'm editing for long periods of time, I have to constantly catch myself like,
right? I know, as I'm sitting here, I'm like, I should probably fix my posture.
And that's just something that I've actually kind of just trained myself in a habit, but sometimes I won't notice it for longer than I want to, and it's like, how long was I crouched like that?
Yeah, so when I do, so I have several clients that'll come in like once a week or so, and they'll just get taped. And it's like, if you come to my house, it's $10, and it's just posture taping. Or else I can teach people how to do it too. It's not terribly hard, especially for the posture. But they come in, we do posture tape, we check where they are. And it's just every week they come in, and then as the tape fades, but like throughout the entire week, it's without even thinking. They don't have to think about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like that.
And we do feet too. I love feet, especially the biomechanics of feet. And I teach toe yoga and all that fun stuff.
Toga.
Yes. So like with bunions and stuff like that. So
interesting. I didn't even know that existed.
Right. Yeah.
I heard about goat yoga.
Yes.
Like a year ago.
I know. I love Colorado. We're like, let's just pull all these farm animals in.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That sounds like it's right up your alley too.
Right.
That's cool. So we've talked kind of like a well-rounded view of how your business started, kind of where you wanting to grow, and like you're already foreseeing that. What have been your biggest struggles or challenges, I guess you could say, starting this business. And when did you start? Like right before COVID?
So
During
no,
COVID?
we started.
Oh, you said 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Sorry, I told you. I get things confused.
Oh, you're good. You're good. I mean, COVID was obviously a struggle. When we first started, what has been the biggest struggle? I think finding good people to work with and trying to hire has been my biggest struggle, especially recently. My mom, she was already retired and she was definitely helping me out in the beginning. And now she's kind of out of it, which was an interesting transition, but now we can just be mother-daughter, which is nice. That was probably one of the bigger struggles was running a business with my mom.
For sure. There could maybe be some things that can cause some resentment there.
Yeah. And it was just learning to have that separation of like mom and daughter relationship versus, okay, we're business partners versus me taking over the business. And so it was, thank God for counseling.
Yeah, nice.
What other struggles? I mean, COVID was a really, I mean, that's going to be a struggle for everyone because we definitely shut down because being a mobile unit, we're going into people's out of homes. Like that just wasn't a thing, especially in the beginning. Here in Colorado Springs, luckily we have a lot of rebellions. So towards the end of it, that wasn't a thing, or that didn't matter nearly as much. But I definitely ended up getting a job for the first time in like 4 or 5 years.
Because of COVID?
Yeah, because of COVID. And I was doing laser therapy in a chiropractor's office because they had, I don't know how they had the ability to be open, but whatever. And so I was working for them, and then I remembered it was hard working for somebody that didn't necessarily have the same integrity of how they wanted to treat their clients and see the results through versus just getting a paycheck. So that didn't last very long.
Yeah.
And then I also remembered,
entrepreneur.
right? And then I also remembered why I started my own business and why I'm the worst employee ever.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I think just throughout my entire life, I was lucky enough to have a business start in a network marketing company that might as well have been disguised as a personal development company. We always went to conferences every couple months, and it was constantly shoving down your throat, you have to become a better person. If you want people to buy from you, if you want people to do business with you, and just in general, striving to be a better person. So I was lucky enough to have now over 12 years of just personal development conferences, constantly reading personal development books. So during this business, it was completely different than network marketing because it was a brick and mortar all encompassing. And I'm still struggling with like learning the back end and that balance of running a business and like I'm really good at like I can look at injuries. Heck, I can even look at the bottom of your shoe and tell you which shoulder hurts or which knee hurts or which hip hurts because of the biomechanics and stuff, right? But, you know, filing taxes and learning all the different laws and the different all these things was definitely a huge struggle too.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge struggle until you start learning to appreciate and enjoy it, which can be hard to do and sometimes impossible for people who just don't want to.
Yep.
But, yeah.
It was embracing that. So I always cheated because whenever I had to go and do my books, I would go sit at Rendezvous and drink a martini and do my books. I was like, if I have to do this that I don't enjoy, I might as well do something I enjoy.
For sure, yeah. And that's why entrepreneurs become alcoholics.
Yeah. You know, the long hours, the crazy stress of never knowing how much you're going to make in a month too. Yeah.
Yeah, that is very, very stressful. And thankfully, I haven't had to worry about that for about a year now. So, yeah.
Yep. We're definitely to that point that it's pretty consistent enough. Yep. And then expanding as much as we do with everything else too. So.
For sure, yeah. So, what's your other entrepreneur experience? You said you did the network marketing. Was that kind of what got you started in kind of the
wanting
entrepreneur
my own
spirit?
business? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We were part of a team called Rat Pack, and it stood for Retired at 20. And so then it was my whole goal to be retired at 20 and then retired at 30. And so
I learned about a recent statistic, actually, that most 18-year-olds think that they're going to be millionaires by 25.
Yeah.
Like 80% of 18-year-olds think that, which is not how it turns out.
No. And I think that was a good thing also being part of network marketing because in real life, you're experiencing how 98% of those people aren't going to make a ton of money. They may never even make a living off of it. And they're not going to be part of the 2% that are making the most, right? So that's where you get some of the negative connotation with network marketing. However, that's life in general anyways. 98% of us are never going to reach the point that we have that complete financial freedom and all this other stuff and all that fun stuff. So network marketing definitely put that perspective in.
I think it's a good way. I mean, it's not even just a good way. I think because of network marketing it seeds a lot of entrepreneurs, kind of, it teaches you about sales. It teaches you about like how to put yourself out there and how to bring people together. It teaches you those fundamentals of that entrepreneurial spirit. And then I think it leads to you starting your own business,
Oh, absolutely. Especially with our company closing down, the network marketing company closing down, seeing how so many of us have really taken off and done our own things. Even towards the end of it, a lot of us kind of started branching off too, because you never want all your eggs in one basket, right? Most millionaires have 7 streams of income sort of status and learning residual incomes and all that other stuff. So it's so nice because it also gives you a good foundation to be able to really figure out what you're passionate about. Like if you know really good network marketers, they're passionate about that product and they're going to sell it whether they made money off of it or not.
Yeah. So. And if they're not, then that's going to show up in everything they do if they don't believe in the product.
Yep. Yes. Yes.
And that's one thing I think Robert Kiyosaki talks about is how you have to believe in it, like no matter what. Like,
yes.
Like if you sell cigarettes, you got to believe it.
Right.
And that's cool. Yeah, I know there is some. I have some like thoughts about network marketing. I do feel like there are like kind of predatory practices.
Yes.
It kind of people who probably shouldn't be getting into it. It kind of incentivizes them. But maybe that's good and maybe that's bad and maybe that's life. I don't know. So
it's that fine line. And it's going to be any business too. Like you're going to have even like shiesty chiropractors and all these other things. Like you're going to have the people that go in there and either it's because they're just not emotionally mature enough or they don't have the right personal development that they're coming in with these practices or their company teaches it, which is even sad because there's several going around even town here that I'm seeing more and more popular that the way that they approach it is not very ethical.
They're incentivized to manipulate.
Yes. And the way that they're even approaching people about it, trying to be more of an expert than I always I'm just candid. I'm going to tell you exactly how it is. I'm going to be very upfront about things. And I like that direct communication. I don't like when people are shiesty or trying to, they're just trying to sell me something, but then they don't necessarily have the follow through, which is a huge problem with network marketing too. So you have a lot of people that might get you started, but they might not be there when you end.
Yeah. And it's like there's nothing wrong, I don't think, with just trying to sell someone something. Just make sure you're selling me something I want. Yep. And like that's a huge part. And yeah, I love all that stuff. So you brought a book here. You're a part of a book. I'm actually familiar with some of your co-writers.
Yes. So after expanding my practice, I ran into Michelle Maras.
Do you want to hold it up for the camera?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So it's called Hold My Crown.
Yeah.
Our main conspirator and writer is Michelle Maras. I met her out in Podunk Falcon. And it was so funny. She still tells this story, and it makes me giggle every time. Because I was up there presenting, and she's just like, "Why are you in Falcon, Colorado?" And I looked at her, and I was like, "Why are you in Falcon, Colorado?"
That's funny.
And so we've just stayed connected over the years, and she was launching this book. And so it's called Hold My Crown, and it is a Women of Grit share stories of resilience. And it's a beautiful blend of 20 different authors from all over the world. So we even have, I think a couple in, India and Africa. Oh, it's fabulous. Great networking. Love it. And it's just all different types of stories, different ages, different generations, different backgrounds, different struggles. I mean, you name it. And it's kind of like chicken noodle soup for your soul.
That's what I was imagining. Yeah.
Yes. In a women's edition. And so this is the first edition. Well, this is the second edition. But of the same book. So they started with 10 and then they added 20. And then from there, they're going to keep doing things. So in November, I don't know if I can say this yet, but they're going to launch a Hold My Crown for Kings.
Okay.
So I think it's going to be the next chicken noodle soup and just take over the country. It's going to be fabulous. So I was super lucky enough to be part of the first one. And I was also especially honored because I was the youngest one in it.
Oh, nice. Sweet.
Yeah. So I can officially say I've had 2 published books and owned my own practice all before I was 30.
Nice.
And this book was featured in the New York Times Square.
Oh, yeah. This is your birthday month, right?
It is.
You're turning 30 this month?
Yes. Don't remind me. I'm holding on.
That's great. Yeah. So when is your birthday?
It is August 20th.
August 20th. Nice.
Yeah. Leo's right on the cusp. Yeah, so this has definitely opened up a whole world of speaking and stuff like that. My story specifically in this is really about wanting to allow people and kind of push people to question all of their subconscious presets. We are very much, however you're raised, you have these subconscious presets set into your brain, whether it's from society or from your parents or from your demographic or from your culture or from where you live or even church and all these other things that are putting these things into your brain that tell you how to be and function. And as a kid, that's what you need. That's like the whole point of having a really healthy family and structures and yada, yada, yada. But once you get 18, that's when you really need to question everything. My story, I think, is literally called Question Everything. And it's...
I've been doing that since I was 5. So.
Right. So it's like digging super deep. And this, what really forced me to really get into this and my story in there too was after the abusive relationship right before I started this one with actually a real estate agent here in town. It broke me down. It was a narcissistic relationship, so it made me literally think I was crazy. My friends thought I was crazy because I'm over here telling him that he's doing all these horrible things and he's this charming, charismatic person to everybody else until we got home. And so as that was, I was pretty much isolated. I lost a lot of friends and everything like this. And at some point I was contemplating suicide and all this other stuff. So when I hit that rock bottom, I had to choose. Either I was going to give up and commit suicide or I had to then question everything because I already thought I was crazy. So I was like, okay, now I need to question everything. What does that look like? So it was, who do I actually want to be? Where do I want to be in life and everything like that? So I used to be a very Baptist, very evangelical Christian, very monogamous and all this other stuff. But after that, it just broke me down. And I was like, that was literally what I thought I had to be, especially in network marketing. I thought I had to be this perfect Christian, evangelical, have that life to be successful because so many of the other leaders were. And so when I finally broke down, it forced me to be like, what do I actually want to do and believe? Like I wasn't raised religious. My parents were anti-religious, quite frankly, and all this other stuff. But I became Christian when I was younger, around 8th grade. Yeah, it saved my life. Super grateful for my chapter as a Christian. But at that point, it just wasn't who I was. So it forced me to question and change everything. So now I'm more of an omnist. I think there's truth and bullshit in all religions, and whatever makes you the best person, do it. Like there is however you want to twist it, as long as it makes you a better person. And then I also love the line of, you can be whatever you want and I can do whatever I want, just don't tell me what to do and I won't tell you what to do. So I think there's that
we all could have used that in a little bit during the lockdowns.
That's a whole other podcast right there. Yeah, so doing that, and then I'm also from being monogamous to polyamorous. So some of my stories all in there is just like a short little tidbit of overcoming all of that. But I think everybody should question it. And it's not saying that you now have to be the complete opposite religion and but if you can then consciously choose who you are and your foundations, like your religion is a huge one, your culture and all these things that you want to bring out in who you are and how you want to be in the world, then your foundation is going to be that much stronger. And then I feel like by doing that, you're also healing through a lot of the trauma of, by questioning everything, you're like, okay, well, why do I hate men so much? Oh, is it because I had daddy issues and all these other things? And then you can heal through that and be like, okay, well, that was because of this trauma and this subconscious preset that came from that trauma. So now I can heal from that and consciously choose to get over that and find healing and things like that and kind of elevate your frequency to where you can hopefully attract better men and blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
How did you fall into that line of thinking?
Through the personal development and the conferences.
Okay.
Tony Robbins was huge, but
it's actually very interesting. I was going through a dark period, and that's when I actually found Tony Robbins, and I assume that's actually kind of how a lot of people find him. Because they're going through something and they have questions or maybe, and then some, especially with the internet, when you search things, it'll find what you need or what you may not need to as well. But but it was very helpful listening to him, and it was awesome. I mean, I'm grateful for Tony Robbins. I know he has a lot of not controversy, but a lot of people just think he's a scammer or something.
They're going to say that about any personal development person.
Yeah,
and you
exactly.
can also say that about any coach. You just have to appreciate people in their lane. And if it works for you, great. If it doesn't, it's not because it doesn't work. It just didn't work for you.
And I never paid for anything from him, and I got so much value from him.
Oh, yeah. So especially nowadays with the internet. Love personal development conferences, but also, there's so many stuff on YouTube and all these other things. Like, oh gosh, yes.
And that just made a connection for me that I just realized. A lot of network marketing companies, they'll use him and his material as part of their training material, or not even as part of their training material, as part of their because he's so powerful with getting you to think and influence you. They'll use his messaging to get you to question, and get you to open your mind a little bit to their product,
Oh, absolutely. Like, it's brainwashing, whether it's because you're in church or because you're going to school or because you're in a network marketing company. It's just choosing to be brainwashed with good stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, I never really found him through that, but I did notice that. I actually do recall that actually when I was 17. I was kind of trying to do this network marketing thing. You technically had to be 18 to do it, but I figured it out.
Yep.
And I do remember seeing a video that they had with Tony Robbins in it. But that was nothing. I didn't even think about it. But later on, I found him in a separate vein on YouTube. So
I think the other thing, I do have to put a plug for this. I think everybody needs a counselor. I've been going to counseling since I was 18. I'd also been in some traumatic stuff and in a really bad car accident that got me into counseling originally because the PTSD was so bad. But I think kind of like the few things in life, you always need a good chiropractor, you need a good counselor. And yeah, pretty much that's kind of how I live my life, right? So everybody needs a counselor. So that was huge for me too, I've had the same one for almost 8 years. She is fabulous, very open-minded, especially from transitioning to Christian to lifestyle. So it was interesting to find somebody that was okay with all of it.
We just had a counselor on here that does something similar like that. People who had a very strict, traumatic Christian upbringing.
Yeah.
So that's what she specializes in.
Nice. Yeah, it is. I love looking into the psychology of those things and understanding how to heal through them, or what type of traumas or even those presets that we have are caused from them. And I'm like, oh, okay, you were upbrought this way, so that's probably why you're responding this way to things and stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, one of the books that I'm hoping to eventually write, I want to do my collaboration similar to this, but it's all going to be women who have healed through the lifestyle, whether it's through healing their marriage or whatever, or even themselves, especially through the BDSM scene and those type of lifestyle things. I really want to focus and bring more of a positive spin to that side of the springs and that lifestyle too. So,
nice.
Yeah.
You should start a podcast.
Right? Oh goodness. That's a lot of technology.
Yes. It's a lot of technology and it's a lot of work, so.
Yeah.
So take that lightly.
Yeah. The second book I was in, I got to express more of that stuff, which was really nice to really show how my journey from one side to the other. And that book is called Rising Through the Ashes. So that should be coming out soon. So I'm going to put that plug in.
Nice.
So that'll be a second collaboration I'm doing. And then eventually I get around to writing my own book. I'm going to start, I don't know if you can call it a podcast, but I'll start with at least videos on YouTube and stuff called Let's Talk. So it's going to be Let's Talk on Mondays, and it's going to be Let's Talk laser, Let's Talk taping, Let's Talk brain fog, Let's Talk. So some of the other things I've expanded into is the neurotechnology, the biohacking and stuff like that too, especially healing for myself. I think one of the biggest things that I learned, it was from healing myself. I've been in 4 car accidents. So that was also my background, is fixing my own stuff with my own modalities and other people, which is why I have so many lovely connections. But how to heal a lot of my own stuff. So it's nice. And maybe that's also why I don't get a lot of pushback, is because, hey, I did this myself. This is how I healed. This is what I found worked, didn't work. Let's try these things and see what's going to work or not work with your body.
Yeah. I mean, and it sounds like you're also talking to the right people. That's one way to not get a lot of pushback, is by, if you're talking to the wrong people, then you could talk to 100 people who would just be like, what the heck is this?
Yeah. Yes. And I think, again, raising your consciousness, raising your frequency, you're just going to attract better people.
Exactly. Yeah.
One of the other good things about network marketing was it taught you sales and how to not be so emotionally connected to your sale and your clients and everything like that, but also including your friends and everything like that. That was one of the hardest lessons I had to learn, was as I started healing, a lot of my friends weren't. And so it had to, I went through a whole grieving process of just changing circles of friends. But where we start and the people we start with are never the people we end with, right? Eventually you have to keep raising that frequency and you're going to start attracting different people, different clients, and what's really going to work for you. And if you just trust the universe or God or whatever you're saying is, it's just that beautiful flow.
Yeah, that's how it is. You know, we attract what we believe, what we like, what we are, and we even subconsciously detract the things that we don't want. We push those away without even noticing it. You know, it's like it's wild.
Yeah.
And we attract and we bring in those things that we do. You know, because we lean into those. It's yeah. I definitely am a big believer in that as well.
Yeah, whether it be business or relationships.
Yeah. So the biohacking stuff. That sounds exciting. Like, what are you doing with that? How extreme are you on that? And how moderate are you on that?
Right.
Because I was walking yesterday and I was like, I want to cut off my arm because I want to have a robot
prosthetic arm,
yeah.
right? Yes. Especially nowadays, those prosthetics are legit.
Yeah,
oh my
exactly.
goodness.
They're almost better, you know.
Oh, I know, right? I was like, can you build me a Lego spine yet?
Yeah.
Like, can I have this yet, please?
Yeah.
I have really bad scoliosis. That's where that comes from.
Okay.
So biohacking, we got introduced. I love this story. I met up, I don't know if you knew her, Shannon Flaherty, or else if you know Marla. So they're all in the same company and stuff like that and do the same thing. But I had met up with her because I was wanting to explore more into pot and weed for my clients and everything like that. And I wasn't too familiar and I just never had a liking for it. I just was never a smoker, not a thing. I know. Colorado, how is that possible? But going to her, gosh, she was fabulous. Plus she also, she literally knew the chemistry of all these different strains and she's such a nerd. And so I loved it. So I tried some of that, but I still wasn't interested in necessarily smoking or trying myself. So she was like, oh, well, I just got introduced to this company that has these patches. And I was like, okay, I'll try it, worst case. So she was like, well, that's I'll do a balance test on you. Try it out right when we began. She just brought it up right away. She's like, put it on, see how you feel by the end of the conversation, and we'll go from there. So, I had tried everything under the sun, especially for my chronic pain and everything like that. And I was like, all right, whatever, we'll give it a shot. So, sat through the thing, and by the end of it, I was like, my brain fog, and I'm communicating so much clearer. Like, what is this? And so then I bought a pair of socks, and I had started doing some research into it, and I went out to my mom's and I was telling her about this really cool pair of magic socks. And I left them out there. So I had, hadn't paid attention. And that night, she was ready for her second hip surgery, which is pretty typical biomechanics. After you have your first one, you're probably going to have a second one eventually, depending on all that, right? So she was walking on a cane. She couldn't, she tried taking a nap. She took ibuprofen. Nothing was working. And she remembered about these these socks that were supposed to, help with the brain and all this other stuff, right? So she puts on so then she wanted to go dancing. She loves line dancing. My mom's a hoot. I love her. Yeah, you'll see her at Cowboys all the time.
Nice.
So she puts on these magic socks. And, within 10 minutes, she's like, my pain is gone. So she went line dancing that night, took the cane thinking that this isn't going to last. This is just whatever. And so she went line dancing that night and she danced the whole night without her cane, without any pain. She is like, what? So she calls me the next day and she's like, you need to get on this. So buy more socks and all this other stuff and started looking into it because especially being in the industry we get pitched with all the different types of health things, right? Which is always a lovely pleasure because then you get to learn about new things and you figure out what works and what aligns and all this other stuff. So I started looking into it, got a third-party brain scan, especially after 4 car accidents. I was like, I'd gone to some of the big places here in the Springs and in Denver. You name it, spent thousands and thousands of dollars trying to help my brain. And I maybe saw an 8 or 10% increase, nothing really long term. Especially after my third car accident, I was completely bedridden for almost a year. And through that, it was mind blowing to go, it was a part-time job just trying to heal. And I didn't really see a lot of results. I put on so I got a brain scan before. And I was like, okay, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this. Because that's why I feel like I'm more integrated health. I like the holistic side, but I like the science. And I think there's a time and place for medicine and stuff like that too. But I want proof. I like science. I like the nerds, the numbers. So I got a brain scan, and then I got a brain scan right afterwards, and you saw immediately the improvement.
Nice.
And then they were like, yeah, we'll wear these 24/7 for 8 months. Come back, we'll do another brain scan. And I was like, it's 8 months and it's wearing socks. Like, they're $40, whatever. So I wore them for 8 months, 24/7. Like, I cut off the toes in them because I hate sleeping in socks, but the technology is in the ball of the foot.
Okay.
Yeah. And so wore those for 8 months, went and got another brain scan, and my overall connections was 36% better. And I was like, from a $40 pair of socks compared to the thousands and thousands of dollars that I've spent at like these concussion specialists and all these other things, even up in Denver and all this other stuff, which was even funnier because I was going up to Denver for PTSD from a car accident.
So you had brain injury?
Oh,
okay.
yes. And I mean, I'm still healing from it, but like I had to write everything down. Like I didn't have memories. Like I didn't remember most of high school from all of that. So
yeah, it can definitely damage those memory cells for sure.
Yeah. So found those socks, and that's really where the biohacking started to take off for me. So that company was started from a computer engineer from up in Canada, and he wanted a way to help his mom with MS. But so he took what his passion and what he was good at and applied it to a solution. And so when you look at the socks or like the sleeve here, it's all just a pattern. There's no metals, chemicals, or anything like that, but he literally downloads this pattern onto your skin, into your brain. So they have different patterns for different functions, but the main, foundation of their products, the socks, actually hacks into your entire brain. So it's going to go in there, and it almost does a Control-Alt-Delete. So immediately when you put it on, it's going to clear out that cache, reconnect to your peripheral nervous system, to your central nervous system, and immediately improve your balance, range of motion, and endurance. After that, your brain kind of chooses where it goes. So for my mom, it obviously helped with her pain for her hip injury. For me, I was way more concerned instead of my chronic pain. My brain obviously decided, I should say, that it needed more help with the brain fog and the anxiety and the depression and the PTSD. So that helps so much over here. So I've been wearing this technology for, almost I think 3 years now. And it's night and day difference, especially when I was driving. And it's crazy to see how much like anxiety and the PTSD that sticks in your body, how it causes these even more chemicals and more pain and more inflammation, because you're sitting there at like a 1 to 10 anxiety scale. When I was driving, I was always at a 6. I was terrified, and it didn't help that I liked speed. So like I have way too many speeding tickets, but it was because I didn't want to be in the group. So I would either speed all the way up or slow all the way down because I couldn't be in traffic. Which owning a mobile clinic was a terrible position to be in. And now it's like, even after that 8 months, it was taken down to a 4. And that's when they launched the sleeves. This specific technology actually targets the prefrontal cortex and a little bit back here, but that targets your anxiety, specifically in your PTSD and your focus. So these, for me, it helped a lot with my PTSD. Like then I was down from a 4 to a 2. Like one of my favorite stories to tell because of the technology and the biohacking is I was going down I-25 right around right before Garden of the Gods, that turn and that overpass. Raining cats and dogs. I'm in my little Focus, and I see, and it's late at night, and I see this semi start sliding and coming up towards me, and it ends up flipping or whatever. And I literally don't even think about it, drift over and then come around to the side and pull over. And luckily the
you whipped
semi
it and hit the brakes and drifted it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I grew up kind of drifting in the mud and shit, country people.
Nice.
So luckily I did that though, because it saved my life. And the semi ended up finally straightening out. But if I hadn't moved or anything like that, and it just kept going, and I just pulled over, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I call my boyfriend, and I'm like, I almost died.
That's like Fast and Furious.
Right? Yeah, it was trippy. It was fucking awesome. But then I call him, and I'm like, I almost died. And he's like, okay, but you sound okay. And I was like, yeah, but I should be freaking out right now. I should be having a panic attack. This is times to have panic attacks.
Yeah.
And so my body was almost like, you should be having a panic attack. My brain was like, nah, bro, it's cool. And I was like, this is a very weird feeling. And I was like, I don't think I would have ever gotten there without the the biohacking and the healing of your entire brain. They're literally having to start writing a lot of these neurotherapy books and neurology books over because they didn't think it was necessarily possible to heal brain injuries. Now we're more limited because it's better if the injury is less than 10 years. But again, you start with one technology, and where is it going to expand?
Yeah, I think it's kind of recent knowledge too, within the last like decade or so, that we didn't even know that you could regenerate brain cells. And you know, when you run, there's neurogenesis.
Yeah.
So it's like that's kind of a new it's kind of new, I think, at least within the last decade or two.
Yeah. So I've nerded out from there. I love the biohacking technology. I mean, they have stuff so like you get a lot of focus from this. It was really cool to be at a conference and see the chiropractor who was the main chiropractor. It was an autism conference, and you see this little autistic 6-year-old just running around, and there's a huge long line, and this mom is crying. She just wants to talk to the doctor, but the kid's freaking out. Like, there's not much you can do in that situation. And so one of his assistants went over, puts his sleeve on this little autistic kid, and within 5 minutes, the kid just sits down and is perfectly calm. So hearing those stories and stuff like that, or people with MS and Parkinson's with the shaking and like losing their ability to even walk without a walker and all this other stuff. So you'll see videos, and I've seen it in real life, which is even better. Like they'll stand on the insoles or the socks or whatever, the technology you choose, and they stop shaking. And it's like you almost give them part of their freedom back. So it's been fabulous to start diving into that. So I like the biohacking side of that and learning more about different patterns and different companies into that. But then also the chemical side. So learning about different herbs and different elixirs and things like that help with brains and stuff like that too. So.
Yeah, nice, sweet. Yeah, I'll have to look into that more. I definitely am a little skeptical on that.
Yeah.
So I definitely would want to do my own research, you know, and just because it's just something that it's something that I would need to be take with caution, you know, like
and
not with caution, but it's like because it's not like if you put it on, it's not like it's gonna hurt you, but it's just like I'm skeptical on things like that.
And I mean, I think we all are because we're exposed to so many different things and so many different options out there. It's being open-minded enough to either do your research or just give it a shot, like I did. I was like, it's a $40 pair of socks, whatever. I'll wear them, and if I feel better, and that's also why I did the brain scan and things like that.
Yeah,
like I'm gonna trust, but I'm gonna verify, right? Trust and verify. Yeah.
I mean, it's just there's I forgot what I was just actually gonna say. So I was thinking, but then I lost it.
Yeah, like a lot of the things that I do even in my practice, it's you can try it, and worst case it doesn't work, but it's not going to make you worse. So like with lasers, you can't necessarily over laser something and make it worse. I mean, you can, but you'd really have to do something stupid.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just that's what I was going to say. It's one of those things that seems like it's too good to be true, so it makes you want to be skeptical.
Yep, and I mean, it's any product too. Like it worked magic with me, and a lot of my clients see it, but it's also, are you wearing it consistently and or it may just not work for you. Like not every body's the same. There could be too much damage. The trauma or whatever is too old and things like that. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, there's definitely lots of factors that come into that. There's also even like placebo, which is very real. If you believe it, you know, it could very be beneficial for you. Yep. And so that's huge as well too. You know, it's like that's a very real thing. You know, and it's like that's things that has been tested before. It's like where, you know, we can do these A and B tests where it's like someone who believes it sees more results, you know.
Yeah, and that's going to be part of it anyways. Yeah, that's why I like doing animals better than I like humans sometimes with laser, because I don't have to sit there and convince you it works.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So I think we've covered everything. Where can people find you?
Yeah, I think we really did. Oh, goodness.
I mean, sure, we could do another hour.
I know.
But I don't really like to make these longer than an hour because it's a lot of work.
Right. Well, and then there's just only so much information people can take into. So easiest way to text me. You can find me on Facebook. My profile is open. And then Archuleta Pain Solutions is public too. Texting is going to be the quickest way to get back to me. 719-439-8574. I'll be in and out of clients most days, so I'll eventually get back to it.
Yeah. Archuleta, is that Spanish?
It is.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
you don't look Spanish.
No. My dad looks like a totem pole. My mom is very white.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, Spanish, Native American, and then on my mom's side is French Canadian and some other stuff like that.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, this has been great. Thank you for coming on the show.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
For sure.
And also, I want to give you one of my books as a gift for having me.
Well, appreciate that. Thank you. All right. This has been the COS Business Podcast, and we'll see you guys on the next one. And